One, I hardly follow any theatres on Twitter. And the reason for that is quite simply, I cannot bear it when at about 10 in the morning, you suddenly get this huge flurry of retweets where the marketing person has arrived at work, sat down with a cup of coffee, gone on Twitter and retweeted all the positive.
Only the good ones.
Yes, all the good ones. And all it makes me kind of go is, why don't they retweet the bad ones as well? And actually, why don't they? Because what they're doing is that they're using Twitter as a broadcast medium when actually it's a conversation. Yeah, that's how Twitter works. So they're misunderstanding entirely how Twitter works. If somebody writes a nice review of one of my children's books, I very seldom retweet it. But what I always do would have a conversation with them. Yes? I'd kind of go, oh, that was nice that you liked it. What bit did you like best? Yeah? And try and engage them in a conversation. Yeah? And I often, particularly if sort of the comments are getting quite heated, will make sure that I go in there and actually engage with it. And what I would often try and do with a blog is that I will just keep an eye on the first 2 or 3 comments, because I know that, if they're, very hostile or things like that, that if you go in and engage with the people in a really reasonable kind of way, that it can often sort of turn. It's that I think there are different ways for writers to operate and for theatres to think about using writers, and writers seeing opportunities for them where they might actually be able to get paid in some way. At its worst, it's just advertorial and nothing else.
One thing I wanted to ask you about was Rupert Gould recently bemoaned the lack of opportunities and platforms for young reviewers, for emerging directors, especially in the regions. So here today in Hampshire, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, again, I think that's absolutely if this is where you live, it seems to me that one of the things that might be very good would be in terms of, in particular, trying to review local companies, local venues, local theatres. Problematic thing probably for a lot of you is that some of the things, for example, companies like Forest Forge, that people like that who are touring around village halls, probably often need a car, in order to get to those places. But I think that without doubt that you can build relationships with those people. If you're, I think that if you set out and quite clearly been seen to be doing that, and maybe quite particularly attempting to write about theatre in this particular area, that before long Forest Forge or whoever it is who is touring somewhere are going to say, well, hang on, we'll arrange your transport for you, we'll make sure you're picked up at a station and taken back, and those they will arrange those tickets. And it may be that then at some point further down the line you are in a good position, you're in a good place in order to write a feature about that company and about that work, and maybe place it, somewhere, not just in a local newspaper or on your own website, So I think you've got to be thinking sideways all the time. I mean, the truth is, I suspect that very few of you probably really want to be critics. You want to either work in the business in some in some sense. But I think all the time, I think the criticism and the business are more intricately linked than they ever were, and that you can make opportunities for yourself. Why couldn't it be that if you do that you might write a programme note which you would be paid for, or should definitely be paid for that company then at some point in the future. So I think there are places and ways and means that you you can do this. I sit there and I have these small thoughts, and I think because I only ever have small thoughts that blog length's sort of quite good for me, in order to do that. But a lot of those small thoughts come as a result of the fact that people within theatre talk to me a lot. Yes, that I seem to have a kind of constant and ongoing dialogue, and sometimes, I have lots and lots of off-the-record kind of conversations. So I sort of feel that I to some extent do have a sort of finger, have been lucky enough to be able to have a bit of a finger on the pulse. Maddie Costa, really fantastic writer, used to work for The Guardian, now runs, in fact with Jake, something called Dialogue, which I'm sure he talked to you about, really, really good initiative. She writes a blog, but she is writer in residence with the Chris Good Company. So what that means is that, she will attend some rehearsals, she will write around productions, she will write pieces which aren't kind of saying, I think this is good or bad, but about the process actually of it. Of course, there are potential downsides of that.